When Bennett Chevy is selling new Chevys at GM Supplier Employee Pricing. Think about how much you'll save at Bennett Chevy. While most other dealers are still charging MSRP and above, Bennett Chevy isn't like most dealers, selling new Chevys at GM Supplier Employee Pricing and not a penny more. You'll enjoy a hassle-free discount along with a simpler buying experience. But that's just the beginning. You'll save even more with available 2.99% financing. 2.99%! That's unheard of in today's market. Looking for used? The good news continues. Bring us the worst clunker and get a guaranteed $8,500 towards any pre-owned in stock. That's at least $8,500 for total junk. Imagine how much more we'll pay for a good trade. And dealing with our non-commissioned sales staff is another hassle-free, delightful experience because they're paid on your satisfaction, not how much you spend. Find new roads at Bennett Chevy, Egg Harbor Township, and BennettChevy.com.
Sports is what we do.
You're in your car, you're in your house, you're wherever you are. You're a sports fan.
97.3 ESPN.
Because if you weren't a sports fan, you wouldn't be listening.
WENJ HD, Millville, Atlantic City. A town square media station serving all of South Jersey. This is Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app. Now, live from the Matt Black Kia Studios.
What a move!
Here's Josh Hennig.
The day has come that Nick Sirianni is going to have to find out who he really is as an NFL head coach. Because today, he lost both of his coordinators. Josh Hennig here on Game Night, talking about the Eagles in the NFL here on 97.3 ESPN FM and 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Sea Isle. We'll get Rob Maaddi, the Associated Press lead NFL writer's perspective, coming up in about 18 minutes from now on Shane Steichen is now the head coach of the Indianapolis Colts. Jonathan Gannon is now the head coach of the Arizona Cardinals. And the Eagles didn't just lose Super Bowl 57. They have lost two important pieces of that Super Bowl run. So we will check in with what Rob has to say about it. Plus, you can text into the show at 609-403-0973. That's the text board. You also can DM the show through the 973 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Sea Isle. So let's break down what each of these coordinators leaving means for the Eagles. I think that the Steichen loss is a little more straightforward than the Gannon loss, and here's why. Steichen was a huge part of Jalen Hurts and the Eagles' offensive evolution from what was a dumpster fire under the final season of Doug Peterson. And remember, the first few weeks of the first year of Nick Sirianni, he then handed the play calling off. I believe it was 8 weeks in. And then the offense took off as the best running team in the NFL. And then this year, Jalen Hurts took off as an MVP candidate for the NFL regular season. So Shane Steichen was a major part of that. It was the first time in Hurts's football life since high school he had the same coordinator calling plays for him back-to-back years. Now he'll have to adjust. But the good news is the Eagles have a very obvious in-house candidate, and that obvious in-house candidate is Brian Johnson. I understand that Kevin Matullo and Nick Sirianni have a very good relationship, but to me, I don't care about Sirianni's relationship. Sirianni's relationship with Patullo is negligible to me. And if that's what ends up ruling the day, then the Eagles made a horrible mistake. This is your quarterback. He had a great performance in the biggest game of the year. He had one mistake, and you could argue he made up for that. The Eagles offense scored 35 points, and who knows how many more they would have scored if Hurts doesn't have that fumble or if Sayamalu doesn't have that false start penalty on the sneak. You got to give Jalen Hurts, the guy that he has the relationship with, and that's Brian Johnson. Brian Johnson, he has some play calling experience. Now, not a lot of play calling experience. Okay. I'm not going to act like Brian Johnson is some super experienced play caller, but calling offenses in college at least gives you some experience. I can't find any evidence that Kevin Patullo has play calling experience. Now, it has been suggested that maybe Sirianni takes back the play calling responsibilities. If that's the case, then Sirianni has to consider more heavily who his D coordinator is going to be. But I think the obvious candidate to replace Steichen, who is a loss, I think Steichen's going to do a very good job in Indianapolis. You know, if you go by the reporting out there of people who cover the Indianapolis Colts and the guys like Tom Pelissaro on NFL Network, basically Jim Irsay wanted to keep Jeff Saturday, the former center. But there was so much pressure on him to not do that he was forced into a situation where they made it be one of the longest head coaching searches. And he went to Shane Steichen. Apparently Steichen and Chris Ballard hit it off. And that's a big reason why that he's there now. So Brian Johnson's the guy that I think should be the O coordinator. He is someone who has some college play calling responsibilities. He's a former quarterback in college who had a nice, pretty good career. You know, as an offensive coordinator, the Gators had a very, very good season. And remember, that was Kyle Trask was that quarterback. So, you know, you have a situation where I think Johnson's the guy that makes sense. And don't forget, you know, Jeff Stoutland is the de facto run game coordinator anyway. So, and Sirianni can still have a say in the play calling, even if Brian Johnson's the OC. But if Sirianni is going to be more involved in the offensive side of the ball, this is where the defensive side of the ball cannot be an in-house promotion. My opinion is that I look at all the successful teams in the NFL. Every successful team in the NFL has somebody on the defensive side of the ball who is like the de facto head coach on defense. Andy Reid has Steve Spagnuolo. Kyle Shanahan had Robert Saleh, DeMeco Ryans, and now Steve Wilkes. You look at a team like the Cowboys. Whether you like the Cowboys or not, you have to admit they have a good defense. And Dan Quinn runs that defense. Mike McCarthy, he ain't messing around with that. Mike McCarthy knows it well enough to stay in his own lane with that in Dallas. You look at other teams around the NFL. Look at the Vikings. They just hired Brian Flores to run that defense. Brian Flores, former head coach in the NFL, former DC with the Patriots. He knows about coaching defense or running a defense. Dan Campbell has Aaron Glenn running the defense. Dan Campbell's out there going to Aaron Glenn telling him what to do. Leslie Frazier runs the defense for Buffalo, even though Sean McDermott has a defensive background. That's Leslie Frazier doing a lot of that work. Sean McDermott is the CEO of that team. Lou Amarillo, he runs the defense in Cincinnati. Zach Taylor, offensive-minded coach, he lets Lou do his thing. I can keep going on this list. The successful formula in the NFL right now is to get a defensive coordinator who is basically the de facto man in charge of the defense. And the problem for the Eagles is if you promote from within for your coach, you're asking somebody who does not have the experience as a coordinator or as a high level in this league to run the defense. I understand Denard Wilson is a guy that a lot of people are bringing up, but Wilson's background is not as some long-term league D coordinator. He's a guy who has worked his way up the ladder in the NFL. Listen, I think Wilson is probably a future DC in this league but I don't think he should be the guy doing it in Philadelphia. This is a guy who's a defensive backs coach for the Jets and the Rams, quality control coach, pro scout, D-backs coach. He's not a guy who I want calling my defense the year after you just went to the Super Bowl. You need to bring in somebody who Sirianni can look at and say, I trust you to run the defense without me having to worry about it. Because not once, but twice this year, Sirianni told the media after games the defense didn't make adjustments soon enough. Well, if Gannon's biggest flaw is either not making the right adjustments or making any adjustment soon enough, then why on earth would you let a Denard Wilson or any of these guys who are on the staff who don't have that experience of being a play caller defensively, why would you just be like, that's fine. He's got it. He knows what he's doing. I'm not comfortable with that idea. And I don't think the Eagles should be either. Now, I don't know who the exact right person is because the Eagles do have a certain issue, which is they want to run a certain kind of defense because of the defensive personnel that they have. I look at, whether it's a Vance Joseph out there who was interviewing for the Cardinals job, didn't get it. Maybe it is. I don't know what Lovie Smith wants to do right now after he basically got the raw deal in Houston. I'm sure that there are other people I can't think of off the top of my head. If I sat down and spent a couple hours of my evening researching who the available coaches are out there, I'm sure there's somebody that I'm not thinking of off the top of my head. But I think you need that kind of defensive coordinator because if we all agree that Jonathan Gannon was outcoached by Andy Reid in the biggest game of the year, if we all are aware of the fact that Jonathan Gannon had not one, not two, not three, but 4 different games this year before the Super Bowl where the defense did not get off on the right foot and it took them a while to figure out what to do before it was almost too late in the terms of the Detroit game and the Houston game. In the Cowboys game, they never made the right adjustment. In the Washington game, it was too little too late. And in the Super Bowl, Kansas City's offense didn't get stopped one time from scoring in that second half. And, whether that's all Gannon's fault, whether that's the field's fault, whether that's the player's execution's fault, whether that's the equipment manager's fault, the reality is that's what happened this year. And I'm not going to sit here and pretend like it didn't happen. Now, do I think John Gannon is going to be a good coach in Arizona? Honestly, I think it depends on who his offensive coordinator is going to be. Because with Steichen, I know that he is walking into a situation where he is being asked not just to be the head coach, but be the QB mentor for whoever the next quarterback who comes in there is. Gannon is going to a situation where he has the quarterback in place, but we know that Kyler Murray didn't have the right man in Cliff Kingsbury to help bring him where the organization in Arizona needs to go. And if you know anything about Monty Ozendorf, he is the new GM in Arizona. His background is he was in Tennessee when they hired Mike Vrabel, and he was previously in the Patriots organization. And what do those two situations have in common? Mike Vrabel, Bill Belichick, defensive-minded coaches who hire offensive coaches to run the offense. So I feel like whoever Gannon does hire is going to be someone who is going to be mostly autonomous in the offensive side of the ball. Over on the text board, 609-403-0973. Paul in Ocean City chimes in. Says, I'm more concerned about the defensive side considering Nick is an offensive-minded coach. I would say just keep Brian Johnson. Would like to bring in a Jim Johnson-type D coordinator. Special teams are also need surgery. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a change of coordinator there, too. That's from Paul in Ocean City. Well, first of all, you don't want a Jim Johnson-type D coordinator because the reality is that the Jim Johnson D coordinator has become obsolete in today's NFL. If you blitz too much, you get burned on the back end. The Eagles this year got pressure with only sending 4 guys. And in the Super Bowl, Gannon blitzed more than almost every game he did this year. The problem in the Super Bowl wasn't the blitz. The problem was the coverage. The coverage was getting whipped and their rear kicked from end zone to end zone by Andy Reid and Pat Mahomes. And Gannon, he either made the wrong adjustment or he didn't make the right adjustment, period, in terms of coverage. I don't think a Jim Johnson D coordinator is the answer, Paul, in Ocean City. I think the answer is getting a coordinator that can do what Gannon did, which was maximize the guys on this roster, maximize the talent that you have. Take Hassan Reddick to that next level. Take guys like CJ Garner-Johnson to that next level. You need someone who's going to bring the best out of the players, because blitzing more is not the answer. It's don't be stubborn when you're getting your rear kicked. If you ever remember the Titans, right? You remember the Titans was the biggest game of the year. The coach, defensive coordinator, turns to Denzel Washington's character and says, "Coach, my defense is getting whipped up and down the field. We need some help." He knows when to ask for help. He knows when to make an adjustment. And I think Gannon's biggest problem is there were times this year that he was a little bit too stubborn. And there's still a term from Mike Gill. Gannon was waiting for the blitz and the sack to happen in that game on Sunday night, and it never happened. I agree 100% with Paul Noshi that I think they need to do something about the special teams. The special teams is a huge concern moving forward as well. We'll get into more of this coming up next with AP NFL writer Rob Maaddi joins me next. And we'll get more of your text messages a little bit later this hour. Dan and EHT, your messages and more. Jeff in Ocean City, I see you as well. Josh Hennig hanging out with you on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN FM and 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Sea Isle.
It's Sixers basketball tomorrow on 97.3 ESPN with the voice of the 76ers, Tom McGinnis, calling all the exciting play-by-play action.
On the move with the beat, hanging, firing, hits up and good, and B will 11 field goal, and the Sixers have made it a one-point game.
It's Sixers Cavs tomorrow. Coverage begins at 7:30. Philadelphia 76ers basketball on your radio home of the Sixers in South Jersey, 97.3 ESPN.
This hour of sports powered by New Jersey Lottery Power X. Feel the power of winning up to 50 times more cash with New Jersey Lottery's Power X family of scratch-offs. Top prize of up to $3 million. Anything can happen in Jersey.
At the Home Depot, we know the world is a messy place. Keeping it clean takes science. That's why businesses everywhere have long trusted cleaning products from Ecolab to take on the toughest messes. And now, that level of clean is available for your home. Introducing Ecolab Scientific Clean, a full line of professional-grade cleaning products for all your home's needs, so you can clean like you mean business. Now available exclusively at the Home Depot. How doers get more done.
Listen up, New Jersey and Philly car buyers. Matt Blatt Mitsubishi has only 3 questions for you. Do you have a job? Yes. Do you have 99 cents? Yes. Do you want a new car? Yes. Why would you buy a used car or pay high interest rates? If you have a job clearing $350 per week, Matt Blatt Mitsubishi wants to approve you. So bring any trade and drive home in a brand new Mitsubishi, like the all-new 2023 Mitsubishi Outlander with 99 cents down and 2.9% financing, plus a 10-year, 100,000-mile limited warranty for the price of most used cars with only 99 cents down. Matt Blatt Mitsubishi keeps the rates low, and with our 4-day love it or leave it return policy, you can't go wrong. Simply Matt Blatt Mitsubishi. Rate qualifications exist with approved credit. $2,778 per 1,000 finance on in-stock 2023 Mitsubishi Outlanders. Not all will qualify. Go to mattblattmitsubishi.com for complete details or call 844-946-2315. Price includes all costs to be paid by consumer, except for licensing, registration, and taxes. Expires 3/3/23. Matt Blatt Mitsubishi in the heart of Glassboro for 30 years.
Searching for fun ways to spend your tax return? Boats for cats. Oh, flotation devices for cats. Don't waste it all on something silly. Spend smarter with Straight Talk. Get our Silver Unlimited plan for $45 a month with unlimited high-speed data and with nationwide 5G. Plus, get a Samsung A13 5G for only $99.99, down from $149. If you're looking to get the most out of your refund, your search ends here. Straight Talk Wireless. No contract, no compromise. 5G capable device required. Actual availability, coverage, and speed may vary. See latest terms and conditions at straighttalk.com.
South Jersey Gas is your energy efficiency partner, helping you lower your utility bills and use less energy. Conserve, our free online energy efficiency resource, offers easy, helpful tips anyone can use to save energy and money. And check out our money-saving solutions, such as rebates and discounts and free weatherization programs for income-qualified customers to help you use less and save more. Visit southjerseygas.com/conserve. With South Jersey Gas and Conserve, using less is really more. Together, we can commit to conserve.
Progressive presents Adjusting to the Suburbs. You just bought a home in the suburbs, but no one told you about all the birds, specifically this one, who seems to be calling out Roy. Roy. But who exactly is Roy? And why doesn't he ever respond? Maybe Roy is just bird speak for save with Progressive by bundling your home and auto. I guess until Roy answers, we'll never know. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company. Coverage provided in service by affiliates and third-party insurers.
Hi, Merrill Reese from Mike's Seafood Run Walk for Autism in Sea Isle City. The Mike's Seafood Run Walk for Autism has been promoting awareness and raising funds for special service schools and families of special needs children. Come join over 5,000 participants in the 5K race and the Family Fun Walk, followed by a huge after party. Join us in huge heated tents where they'll have great food, unbelievable door prizes, and the award ceremony. The party is not just for runners or walkers, it's for the entire family. They'll have clowns, superheroes, and face painters for the kids. For more information or to register, go to polarbearrunwalkforautism.com.
Mike's Seafood Run Walk for Autism is Saturday, February 18th at JFK and the Boardwalk in Sea Isle City. Registration is from 9:30 to 11:30. Run Walk starts at noon.
Any day you can do something for children with disabilities, it's a good day.
You're listening to Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app.
Game Night being brought to you by Jenkins & Sons. One call does it all. No need to call the drain guy, the heater guy, the plumbing guy. No, just call my friends at Jenkins & Sons for new heating and air installation, service and maintenance, ductless air conditioning systems, water heaters, boilers, gas furnaces, leak repairs, and more. Just call 609-641-6440 or visit them online at jenkinsandsons.com. Like I said, we'll get to more of your texts in just a bit at 609-403-0973 on the text board. Jeff at Ocean City, Dan EHT, and more. But right now, he is back again for the final game of the NFL season. Rob Maaddi has joined us all year long, and he is back with us as he is traveled. He's finally, well, I hope he got some rest, especially after the crazy week. And I felt like every time I popped up my social media, Rob was interviewing everyone and anyone, and he is with us now here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. Rob, welcome back in. How you doing?
Oh, it's great to be home, Josh. It was a busy, hectic week, and it was a great Super Bowl game. Disappointing from the Eagles' standpoint, but it was everything you could expect and then some.
Bob, I want to leave it open-ended for you for the first question, which is, what was for you the biggest takeaway from Super Bowl 57?
The biggest takeaway either way, either side?
Yeah.
The biggest takeaway then for me would be that Patrick Mahomes is the best player in the NFL right now, and he's got an opportunity to continue to have success. And I don't think anyone will ever touch Tom Brady's GOAT status in 7 Super Bowls. But I think the combination of Mahomes and Andy Reid, depending how long Andy wants to do this, and the fact that they were able to win without Tyreek Hill and beat a team as good as the Eagles. I thought the Eagles were extremely competitive, more so than any other team would have given the Chiefs a run. And they should have won the game and didn't. But that said, the way they were able to still pull it out, man, I think Patrick Mahomes is, if anybody had any doubts, is the real deal. And he's got a shot at least 4. I think he's got a shot at 4 Super Bowl championships. And I know it's tough to get back there and win again. But, like, that would be my one takeaway. 1A, Jalen Hurts played great And anyone who wasn't paying attention to the Eagles finally saw that Jalen Hurts, even though I just said that Patrick Mahomes is the best player in the NFL, on that day, in that game, Jalen Hurts was better. Jalen Hurts was that good that he outplayed the best player in the NFL on that one particular game under the bright lights and the spotlight on that stage. So I think that bodes well for the Eagles' future.
Let's get back to the Chiefs for a moment, because to me, Rob, one of the stories of the game was that Kansas City was 0 for 3 on third down in the first half, 4 for 5 on third down in the second half. Obviously, Andy Reid, Eric Bieniemy and company made some serious adjustments in that second half, and the Eagles defense, they just didn't have an answer for him. And to me, I know a lot of people are talking about the field conditions. Rob are talking about, the Chiefs offensive line, the Bradbury hole. But to me, Rob, it comes down to the fact that I thought that the Chiefs made the adjustments and the Eagles just didn't have an answer.
Yeah, and I just thought that was a completely, extremely excellent coaching performance by Andy Reid and Eric Bieniemy, to whatever extent, who's designing, who's calling, who's doing whatever it is. Like when you have 2 consecutive touchdowns where guys are in 2 different plays where guys are wide open by that much, I mean, you just really outcoached your opponent right there. And the Eagles didn't have any answers in the second half. And I was most disappointed, Josh, by the lack of a pass rush. All year long, we talked about how this defensive line and offensive line, both, they dominated. And that D-line coming in, you got 4 guys with 10-plus sacks. You got 70 sacks as a unit, and they couldn't get the job done. And that was very, very disappointing to see, because I thought that was going to be the factor in the game, the key factor. I thought the offense would be able to do what they did, and they put up even more points than I expected at 35, but I didn't anticipate that defense giving up. Well, the fumble, it makes it 31. And then a long punt makes it 24, but in crunch time, they didn't make the plays. They didn't get the sacks. They didn't put that pressure on when they needed to.
Rob, I have to ask you about the field situation, because a lot of players were complaining after the game about the field conditions. Ian Rappaport was on, I think it was the Pat McAfee show yesterday, saying that the halftime show made the field actually worse. I know the NFL had been growing this grass for like almost 2 years, and they rolled it in, and apparently it wasn't right. How much of an impact do you think the field conditions had on the game?
Well, I think we all saw it, right, Josh? Guys slipping and falling, but it impacted both sides, right? The Colts. I'm thinking of Shane Steichen right now. The Chiefs had a play on it. The Eagles had a play on it. Like, there was one particular play. I forget the result of it, but I remember Patrick Mahomes. That's where he ran to the 14 yards to the 4-yard line. He slipped. Someone else slipped, and like 2 defenders slipped on one play. And he still somehow, because he's Mahomes and he's a magician, and he somehow doesn't fall down, slips, balances himself, runs 14 yards to the 4. It's extremely disappointing for anyone watching that field condition was so bad and so poor that here you are in a Super Bowl, especially too after all year long you hear players speaking out about field conditions and turf and synthetic and grass and natural and all these things, and why don't owners and why don't teams and why doesn't this billion-dollar industry do what's best for players? And here they are in Arizona at the Super Bowl, and they're spending $800K or whatever it was, and they're making it, and it's taken, and they got to roll it in and roll it out. And I know it's the desert, and I know it's Arizona, and you got to protect it one way and somehow and all that stuff. I don't care. Find a way. It's the Super Bowl. And as much as I loved Arizona as a host city and everything was convenient and the stadium is beautiful and all of that was awesome, but then the game itself is impacted by poor field conditions, that doesn't look right.
So with Rob Maaddi from the Associated Press joining us here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN, at Rob Maaddi on Twitter for all of his NFL coverage. Rob, obviously, aside from the loss for the Eagles, the big news to come out is they lose not one, but 2 offense and defense coordinator in one day. Shane Steichen to the Colts, Gannon to the Arizona Cardinals. In your mind, which of those guys do you think is going to be the bigger loss for Philadelphia, and who do you think might have the bigger success with their new team?
That's a great question, and I'm actually surprised because as the numbers were dwindling and fewer coaching jobs were open, it may have been a couple weeks ago. It may have even been on your show where I said I think the Eagles are going to luck out and not lose anybody. And here, bam, the last two, and they go to both the Eagles offensive coordinator and the defensive coordinator. I think they're better equipped to replace Steichen. So Gannon, I know he's not popular in Philly. I know people are probably annoyed with the defense in the Super Bowl and how they performed, but I kind of feel like replacing him is going to be a little bit harder. Who's going to have a more successful career as a head coach? I don't like what Arizona has as far as from a team standpoint. Kyler Murray's contract is an atrocity for that team. I don't see him as the winning quarterback. With the Colts having the number 4 pick, I think Jim Irsay already said today how much he likes Bryce Young. He's a guy who wants to win as an owner, and I know he does some quirky, goofy things at times, but he's going to do whatever it takes to win. I think they were a playoff caliber team 2 years ago. I think if they can get that right quarterback in, and you got a guy like Steichen who helped develop Jalen Hurts from a question mark to an MVP finalist, they're in good hands. I mean, you give him a young quarterback, some talent on the team. I think Shane Steichen can win fairly soon. You see a lot of guys go in and have immediate success. I'm not going to predict that they win the division because the Jags are going to be better than they were last year,
right.
But that division is available and it's open. And this is a team that if they get the right quarterback with Shane's mindset, I think he's going to have some success there far more than Gannon will, especially right away.
Yeah, I think Gannon's biggest problem is it just is so hyper dependent on who is going to be coaching the offense. Because Rob, in this league, whatever the head coach's personal preference is, the successful teams hire a guy on the other side of the ball who's like almost like the de facto head coach of that side of the ball. So I don't even know who Gannon would hire per se because it's so late in the cycle. Like I know the Eagles are probably going to promote Brian Johnson to be their OC, but I don't even know who Gannon knows or doesn't know in the league to bring in to be the right guy. Like he might know somebody, but is that guy the right guy for Kyler Murray?
And that's the great question right there, because he's got to find somebody who can get the most out of Kyler Murray, who can really cater a system around his skill set and enable him to have success. Now, I'm sure Jonathan Gannon learned from being around what Steichen and Sirianni and Brian Johnson did for Jalen Hurts, and maybe he wants somebody in that mold. And yeah, the Eagles would be wise to protect Brian Johnson by elevating him, but maybe he looks he looks at the Eagles' offensive coaching staff. I don't know what he tries to. Maybe that's how he thinks, because you got a guy who is similar to Jalen in skill set, and you want to bring in somebody who can help get the most out of that kid, because they're paying him a lot of money, and you're going to need Kyler Murray to step up his game, take it to another level if they're going to have some success there. But yeah, it's late. It's late in the business. It's late in the game, and they're going to have to build around. And like you said, usually you get a defensive coordinator. You're going to have an offensive coordinator who it's your team, and you take care of this.
Now back to the Eagles for a moment. I was saying before you came on, Rob, that I don't want to see the Eagles promote from within. No offense to Tracy Rockert or Denard Wilson or any of those guys, but I think Sirianni needs a guy to come in here so he doesn't have to worry about it. Because I heard Sirianni, Rob, say twice at least this year after games, our defense took too long to make adjustments. I mean, that's a head coach saying to the media about his defensive coordinator. So to me, I think it's essential that they bring in a guy. I mean, I don't know if Vance Joseph or Lovie Smith are the right person, but someone like that that's got that kind of pedigree, as Sirianni can do what Andy Reid does with Steve Spagnuolo or what Kyle Shanahan has done with like a Robert Saleh and a DeMeco Ryans and say, you deal with that. I got other things to worry about.
The problem, too, is you want somebody who's got familiarity with your personnel, with your system, with your scheme. They were able to have tremendous success this year. You're not going to want to bring in somebody who's going to change how they scheme things up and how they play and how they attack on the defensive side. I do think Denard Wilson makes a lot of sense. He really does, because of, man, he's there. He's inside that building. He knows these guys. He's going to be able to. It's not like you're transitioning to someone else. Now, from outside, I understand what you're saying, but I don't know that they're wired that way right now. I think when you have the success they had and you lose an OC and a DC, you would hope that the guys right beneath them, right under them, who've worked with them, can continue to carry that on with the same philosophy, the same system, and the same scheme. And to me, Brian Johnson and Denard Wilson as OC and DC make a whole lot of sense for a lot of reasons. And let's not forget, too, the San Francisco 49ers have done a great job as a team that's developed future head coaches from minority coordinator positions and get compensation picks. You're not going to give someone a job for that reason, but it wouldn't hurt to set yourself up for future potential compensation picks. I think the Niners are like 7, while everybody else is at 1 guy for 2 picks.
Yeah, I feel like the 49ers, you're right. They've supplied half the minority hires in the league at this point. It's absolutely between their coaching staff and front office, by the way.
Yeah, they've done a tremendous job with that, and it makes a lot of sense. The Eagles have qualified candidate who you look at and go, hey, that's the next step. Ryan Johnson, quarterback's coach, done a terrific job. He understands the system. He's worked with Jalen. He knows everything. You usually go from quarterback coach to coordinator. So it totally makes sense. And in Denard Wilson's case, it's same fit. Defensive backs coach, assistant defensive coach, right there, same fit. You promote those guys. Now, if Nick Sirianni does go outside, and they do go outside for a defensive coordinator, maybe that tells you that he did allude to a couple times where he said, hey, we didn't make the adjustments that we needed to. Maybe that would be an indication that he wants a fresh set of eyes and a fresh mind to maybe look at the scheme and the philosophy and do things a little bit different. I don't think they're there, but that's what that would indicate to me if they did that.
Rob, I wasn't going to ask you this, but what you just said was interesting, because you mentioned if he looks outside. I just remembered this. Sirianni didn't hire Gannon. Jeffrey Lurie hired Jonathan Gannon. Is there maybe a situation here where Roseman and Lurie get involved potentially, and they maybe not tell Sirianni what to do, but suggest to him what they think he should do in this situation?
Oh, I think Jeffrey Lurie and Howie Roseman absolutely will have input. You know that, right? They have a pedigree for that. They influenced the offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator. They had influence on coaches with Doug Peterson, who had won a Super Bowl. So if they were going to try and influence coaching staff hires with Doug Peterson, which eventually led to Doug saying, that's it, I'm done. I'm holding my ground, and I want this guy and I want that guy, and that's how they ended up parting ways. I most definitely think they'll tell Nick Sirianni, this is what we think you should do, or beyond, this is what we think you should do. We would really like to see you do this.
It's very interesting. Couple more, Rob, before I let you go. First of all, give me your take on the Derek Carr situation, because first he might get traded. Then he says, don't trade me. And today he gets released. There's a lot of speculation on where he would go. What is your take on the Derek Carr situation? Because I think whoever gets him is getting an amazing, he might not be the greatest quarterback in the world, Rob, but his character is championship character.
I agree. I think he's a leader. I think he's got he's a great character guy. And he's talented, and it just wasn't the right fit with Josh McDaniels for whatever reason. And I know that it took a while for John Gruden and Derek Carr to build a strong relationship. But after that first year, like they were really tight to the point where Derek Carr, I think, still stays in touch with Gruden. There are some teams that would make sense for him. I know New Orleans is the one that had been talking about trading for him. Why would he want the team bringing him in to have to give up any assets when he wants to go there so that they can have those assets? There was no incentive for him to want to get traded. He's better off going out negotiating his own deal as a free agent. I feel like if you're in the market for a quarterback, and this is funny, I ran into a Jets fan at the hotel and I said, so are you rooting for the Jets to get Aaron Rodgers? And it was a woman. She's like, no, I'd rather have Derek Carr. There's too much baggage with Aaron Rodgers. And that surprises, right? I was like, this is a Jets fan who would rather have Derek Carr than Aaron Rodgers for a year or two or however long it takes for him I don't know what he's doing. Like, you look at Aaron Rodgers, he's certainly far more talented. He's an elite quarterback. He's one of the greatest of all time. Only won one Super Bowl, so he hasn't had that success in the playoffs. But Derek Carr, to me, isn't that far below. And I think from the perspective of some fans out there who have rooting interest for their teams, whether it's the Jets, whether it's the Saints, the Buccaneers are in the market for a quarterback. I know Ron Rivera told me last week that Sam Howell's going to go to camp as the starting quarterback for Washington. They would benefit from looking at a guy like Derek Carr. So would the Carolina Panthers, who got Frank Reich. I think Derek Carr and Frank Reich would be a really good fit. So he's got some options, and it's going to be interesting to see where he ends up.
Yeah, I think Derek Carr and Frank Reich, I agree. That would be an amazing matchup with those two. Now, on the flip side, what do the Raiders do? Because, Rob, you know what was being said. Everyone assumed that Tom Brady was going to Vegas at one point. Well, Tom Brady is retired. Aaron Rodgers is going to spend 4 days and 4 nights in pitch black darkness. What does Vegas do?
It makes sense to come out of that darkness and join the Las Vegas Raiders. Like that. That would totally that would fit. That could be what they're waiting on. And, that contract and everything else, it's difficult to see him ending up somewhere else. I don't know that they feel that Jarrett Stidham is going to be their guy going forward. Could they there's a relationship, obviously, between Josh McDaniels from way back and Jimmy Garoppolo being groomed to take over for Tom Brady. He's available. That could be a guy that they look at. I think the Raiders just aren't that good enough of a team. Like, I didn't think Tom Brady would go there. And even if he did, it didn't seem like he could end up being a guy who could, with all the holes and the flaws that they have as a team, lift them to a Super Bowl. It wasn't like he was joining the Buccaneers, who were a little bit more set when he went there and won in that first season with them. So Jimmy G would seem to me, if it's not Aaron Rodgers, the ideal fit for the Raiders for at least a couple of years.
He's Rob Maaddi, covers the NFL for the Associated Press. Follow him on Twitter at Rob Maaddi. Also check out the AP Pro Football podcast, and you hear Faith on the Field Saturday mornings at 9 a.m., the Encore on Sundays here on 97.3 ESPN. Rob, great stuff today. I'm glad you made it home from Arizona. Try to get a little bit of rest because, the NFL is a 12-month-a-year sport to cover.
Josh, I'm already booking my trip to the Combine in like 2 weeks. I can't believe, I barely get to turn it around. I got to hit the Combine, which I've never been to yet. So it's going to be pretty cool. It'll be my first time. I usually never wanted to go to Indianapolis. I wanted to stay in Florida. Now that I live in Florida year round, I'm like, all right, I can take a few days and go to Indianapolis. So appreciate it, man. Keep up the great work and talk to you soon.
Thanks, Rob. Take care. That's funny. Rob says I live in Florida now, so I'm okay with going into Indianapolis. That's a great line right there. Rob always brings great stuff here to us here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. All right, as promised, Dan and EHC, Jeff at Ocean City and more, 609-403-0973 is the text board, and also your DMs, 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Sea Isle.
Here's what you missed on Keyshawn, J. Will, and Max.
I hope nobody had any questions about Jalen Hurts because he single-handedly kept this team in the game, man.
He did what he's been doing all year long.
This was on the biggest stage.
Yeah.
He played his tail off. And even the way he responded after the fumble by coming back the next possession and scoring that next drive, there's no question about what his dominance is.
Keyshawn, J. Will, and Max. Weekday mornings at 6 on 97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app.
Matt Flat Nissan is now open on the Black Horse Pike in Egg Harbor Township, next to Home Depot. Get out of that old car, truck, or SUV and into a brand new Nissan. The all-new Matt Flat Nissan on the Black Horse Pike in Egg Harbor Township, or visit us online, mattflatnissan.com.
At the Home Depot, we know the world is a messy place. Keeping it clean takes science. That's why businesses everywhere have long trusted cleaning products from Ecolab to take on the toughest messes. And now, that level of clean is available for your home. Introducing Ecolab Scientific Clean, a full line of professional-grade cleaning products for all your home's needs, so you can clean like you mean business. Now available exclusively at the Home Depot. How doers get more done.
Introducing Total by Verizon, a new prepaid wireless provider with no contract plans starting at just $30 a month. With Total by Verizon, you don't have to sacrifice reliability or freedom. Get Total by Verizon and save money every month on America's most reliable 5G network. Most reliable 5G based on most first-place rankings and root metrics first half 2022 assessments of 125 metros. Experiences vary, not an endorsement.
I guess one time isn't gonna kill me.
It's totally safe. We do this all the time.
There's no way these drugs are laced, right?
Trust me, you're gonna be fine.
I just need to forget everything.
It'll be fine.
A lethal dose of fentanyl is just 4 grains of sand. It can hide in any drug. So no matter what you and your friends think, what you can't see will kill you. Don't die to get high. Fentanyl is fatal. Get the whole truth at CamdenCounty.com/fentanyl.
Wesley Financial Group is not a law firm.
This story is called The Ugly Truth About Timeshare. If you think you've done your family a favor by buying a timeshare, you need my help. Hello, I'm Chuck McDowell, CEO and founder of Wesley Financial Group. 10 years ago, I started helping folks cancel their timeshare. And in the process, started what's now called the timeshare cancellation industry. Timeshare is the only thing that you can buy that you can't tell me how much it's going to cost or when it's going to end. When you buy a timeshare, you give them a blank check to fill out any amount they want for annual maintenance and assessment fees. The crazy thing is, this never ends. Even when you die, your family's now going to be stuck with this burden. Stop the insanity today. Call my office now. If we take you as a client, I guarantee we'll cancel your timeshare or you'll pay nothing.
Call for your free information kit. 800-798-3399. 800-798-3399. 800-798-3399.
I'll second guest dinners with friends because they can be interrupted by diarrhea, gas, bloating, stomach pain, or oily stools. It turns out I have EPI, or exocrine pancreatic insufficiency, which means I'm missing the enzymes needed to digest food. My doctor prescribed Creon, pancrelipase, an oral prescription medication that replaces pancreatic digestive enzymes. Creon treats EPI due to cystic fibrosis, chronic pancreatitis, pancreatectomy, or other conditions.
Creon may increase your chance of fibrosing colonopathy, a rare bowel disorder. Tell your doctor if you have a history of intestinal blockage or scarring or thickening of your bowel wall, if you're allergic to pork, or if you have gout, kidney problems, or worsening of painful swollen joints. Call your doctor if you have any unusual or severe gastrointestinal symptoms or allergic reactions. Take Creon as directed by your doctor and always with food. Do not chew capsules, as this may cause mouth irritation. Other side effects may include blood sugar changes, gas, dizziness, sore throat, and cough. These are not all the side effects of Creon.
Creon is the #1 prescribed EPI treatment. Ask your doctor about Creon for EPI and visit creoninfo.com or call 800-633-9110 to learn more. That's CREONinfo.com.
Why would someone looking for a mortgage at the Jersey Shore take a loan from a company in Detroit or North Carolina or some other far-off place? Online mortgages promise a lot but don't always deliver. First Bank of Sea Isle City knows the Jersey Shore. We are local lenders. We use local appraisers and provide in-house processing. We understand the unique obstacles of financing in Cape May County. Don't take a chance. Local banking is better. Let us guide you. First Bank of Sea Isle City.
Member FDIC.
Equal housing lender.
I'm Martin Hoke, the inventor of Navage Nasal Care, and I love Navage. I've told you about how your nose is the body's air filter, that Navage's powered suction will help flush out allergens, viruses, mucus, and germs, and that Navage will help you breathe better. But what do other people say about Navage? Like Tara, quote, "My doctor wanted me to do saline rinses for my allergies, but I've never been able to successfully use a neti pot. Navage uses suction power, so it's foolproof. There are nights when I'll have particularly bothersome allergies. I'll bust it out, and the results are immediate. It's such a relief. It's become a lifesaver." Unquote. She's one of over 100,000 online reviews praising Navage, the all-natural solution trusted by over 3 million people to help you breathe better, sleep deeper, snore less, and stay healthier without drugs. Navage is available at Walmart, CVS, Walgreens, Target, Rite Aid, and online. Navage, Navage, clean nose, healthy life.
With GMF financing to qualified buyers excludes Corvette. Why would anybody pay sticker or even above sticker when Bennett Chevy is selling new Chevys at GM supplier employee pricing? Think about how much you'll save at Bennett Chevy. While most other dealers are still charging MSRP and above, Bennett Chevy isn't like most dealers, selling new Chevys at GM supplier employee pricing and not a penny more. You'll enjoy a hassle-free discount along with a simpler buying experience. But that's just the beginning. You'll save even more with available 2.99% financing. 2.99%! That's unheard of in today's market. Looking for used? The good news continues. Bring us the worst clunker and get a guaranteed $8,500 towards any pre-owned in stock. That's at least $8,500 for total junk. Imagine how much more we'll pay for a good trade. And dealing with our non-commissioned sales staff is another hassle-free, delightful experience because they're paid on your satisfaction, not how much you spend. Find new roads at Bennett Chevy, Egg Harbor Township, and BennettChevy.com.
Now, more Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app.
As promised, I'm going to get to your messages, your DMs. Text board is open, 609-403-0973, 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank. And see how where you DM the show. Of course, no Flyers or Sixers tonight. Sixers back in action tomorrow night versus the Cavs. Flyers back in action Thursday night versus the Kraken. Hear both those games on 97.3 ESPN. Jeff at Ocean City texted in the show a little bit earlier, says, every season is different and players come and go, but with this owner, GM, and coach, and especially the quarterback, I'm excited for the upcoming decade, which will be the best in franchise history. That's Jeff, the eternal optimist in Ocean City. I added the eternal optimist part. Listen, I understand what you're saying, Jeff. I think that, yes, you're right. The owner and the GM have shown you that they can create a winning culture, winning stability for this organization on and off the field. I just think that, we have to have questions because at the end of the day, there's no way the Eagles are going to have, if they do, it's a 1 in a million thing. It's a 1 in a million scenario for the Eagles to have as great of an offseason in 2023 as they did in 2022. If it happens, Howie Roseman's probably getting consideration for the Hall of Fame one day. And so is Jeffrey Lurie. With that being said, I just don't know. Between all the free agents, they got 2 first-round picks coming up in the draft. I personally think they use both of those picks. If I'm the Eagles, I don't trade up with my 2 picks. I keep both of those picks. I let some extra guys leave in free agency because I know I can reload through the draft. So you're right. Players do come and go. And you should be excited because I think Jalen Hurts is still ascending. I don't think he's done growing and evolving and developing. Anonymous texter chime in. What about Jim Schwartz? Anonymous texter Jim Schwartz is the defensive coordinator of the Cleveland Browns next year. But good try. Dan in EHT is very upset with me. He said, the Eagles should just promote somebody's defense coordinator for 1 year, then next year they can go get Saleh, Rex Ryan, or Bowles after they get fired. Well, first of all, I don't think Saleh gets fired. I think he's the Jets head coach for a while. Bowles, I don't know. Bowles doesn't even run the same kind of defense. Same thing with Rex Ryan. I'm out on that. Danny actually also is upset with me because he said 49ers got unreal talent on defense, the best player in Bosa. Same with Dallas and Parsons. Who was Gannon before he got shot with the Eagles? Well, Dan, the HT, Gannon was a hot coaching candidate around the league, and that's why Jeffrey Lurie hired him, not Nick Sirianni. He was very well known in the league circles. Just because you didn't know who he was doesn't mean he wasn't a known commodity before the Eagles got him. Look, I said it on Twitter, at Josh Hennig on Twitter. Gannon's long-term goal was to be an NFL head coach. It wasn't to be defensive coordinator. D coordinator was a step in the right direction. That's what that was. Look, Gannon, I think, has a chance to be a better head coach than the coordinator because as a head coach, you're more of a CEO in the managerial position than you are in a X's and O's coaching role. And I'm not saying Gannon's a bad coach. I'm saying he's a bad coordinator. But I think that he might just be one of those people who has the potential to be a better head coach than he was coordinator. Look at a guy like Bill Walsh. Look at a guy like Joe Gibbs. They were good offensive coordinators. They were Hall of Fame head coaches. I'm not saying Gannon's a Hall of Famer. I'm just saying he has potential.
Our locally owned and operated small businesses are the heartbeat of our community.
All right, hello, YouTube only audience. I haven't done a post show in a while. Remember to like, subscribe, share with your friends. Josh Hennig here on YouTube. Show every night. Game night, 6 o'clock on 97.3 ESPN. I just want to expand on the Gannon thing a little more because I think it's a conversation that needs to be had. Really just a little short little post-show commentary. In life, there are people who don't look at their job the same way the rest of us do. And I think Jonathan Gannon is one of those people. To me, it's fairly obvious that Gannon wants to be an NFL head coach more than anything. And I don't hold that against him. I don't blame him. I think it's a little cheap the way he went about it because he looks desperate to take any job he can get because he wants to get out of Philadelphia. But, it's very possible that Gannon may just be somebody who's like, look, I'm not happy with my current job because I want more for my life. I want the challenge. I want to grow. I want to evolve. And I think for a lot of people, their resentment of Gannon is because Gannon didn't fit the mold of what most people wanted from a defensive coordinator in a city like Philadelphia. Gannon is a good defensive coordinator, but he's not great. And this is what I was arguing. Anyone who heard the Sports Match Mike Gill earlier today, when Mike Gill asked, can you name anybody who has a better defense than the Eagles? Like, how many can you name? And I just started rattling them off. Look, I like the 49ers and DeMeco Ryans better. I thought that Dan Quinn did a great job with the Cowboys this year, even with all the injuries. I thought that the Baltimore Ravens were lights out for the last 6 to 8 weeks of the year defensively, and they probably could have won that game against the Bengals in the postseason if they had Lamar Jackson and not Tyler Huntley. By the way, how about this? Lou Amarillo, the Bengals D coordinator, if it's not for that hit out of bounds on Patrick Mahomes and the penalty was called, does that game go to overtime? Do the Bengals win that game? And is the Eagles Bengals in the biggest game of the year with Lou Amarillo's very well-coached defense? I think we underrated the Steelers' defense this year. I think Tomlin did a great job once those guys got healthy over there in Pittsburgh. You look at a situation, Steve Spagnuolo actually had a good defense this year in Kansas City. It wasn't an elite defense, but it was a good defense, thanks to Chris Jones and Frank Clark on the defensive front. So those are just some examples of teams that had good defenses this year. It wasn't just the Eagles. It wasn't just Jonathan Gannon. I think the problem is that, you've heard me say the term perception becomes reality in life. The perception of Gannon all along was that he was a good, not great D coordinator. And that was held against him from day one. The fact that he said, hey, I'm not going anywhere. And then the day after the Super Bowl, he's staying in Arizona to interview with the Cardinals. all of those things line up to me as it's probably a better thing that he's not here, because I think Gannon had some limitations as a coordinator. So I think the Eagles have an opportunity to bring in a coordinator who is going to be a better fit for what the Eagles and the fan base wants. You're not going to make everybody happy. Okay. You can't, just do things as the fans want it. But I think there, as I told Rob Maaddi, and I've mentioned numerous times, and I'll say it again here, when the head coach says at his post-game presser, well, we could have made adjustments earlier on defense, that is a clear sign to me that there's a disconnect between what the head coach wants to do and what the D coordinator is doing. And you have to wonder, how does that factor in? And if you do bring in a veteran guy like a Vance Joseph, like a Lovie Smith, to be your D coordinator, now what you're doing is you're also impacting how you go in the offseason. Does one of those guys tell Howie Roseman and company, hey, I need Brandon Graham, or I need Javon Hargrave, or I need TJ Edwards over Kazir White, or I don't need James Bradbury and I need CJ Gardner-Johnson, or I need Bradbury and I don't need CJ Gardner-Johnson. There's so many decisions that can come off of who that hire is. So that's why, to me, it's so important they get the right person. And I understand what Rob Maaddi was saying. I understand what other people are saying, but I just don't want to see them promote from within just because other teams do it. The 49ers, as Rob mentioned, have had a ton of success from promoting from within. But just because they're good at it doesn't mean every team, every organization can have the same level of success. At Josh Hennig on Twitter. Josh Hennig here on YouTube. Like, subscribe, share with your friends. Have a great night, everybody. I'll catch you tomorrow right here for Game Night, 6 p.m., 973 ESPN FM, 973 ESPN mobile app, and right here on Josh Hennig on YouTube.